Good afternoon to one and all. I am Suresh Kuppuswamy, a student of Professor Dr. Mohammed Harris in Bachelor of Architecture and School of Architecture and Planning, then Madras University of Madras, from the year 1969 to 1974. And later I continued my post-graduation in the same institution from 74 to 76. So I had the pleasure of having Professor Harris, or known Professor Harris as a teacher, right since 1969. Before I proceed to share with my interaction and experience with Professor Muhammad Harris, at the outset, I would like to offer my condolences to the bereaved family members of Professor Harris. I have known, as I mentioned, Professor Harris since the time I appeared for aptitude test in architecture in the year 1969. It must have been in the month of June. As an aspirant student of architecture, I was to attend an aptitude test, appear for an aptitude test in the multipurpose hall of SAP, where I think Professor Harris was. I didn't know that he was Professor Harris then, but he was one of those invigilating or a professor in charge of conducting that aptitude test. And in my anxiety to give some shading effects to the drawing which I was making, I was using a piece of folded paper to give that shading effect. And Professor Harris walked near me and he asked me, "Are you drawing with pencil or paper?" That was Professor Harris. He observed the change and he wanted to give a witty remark. Later, I formally joined School of Architecture in the year 1969 as a student of Bachelor of Architecture, BR. And in the initial stages, I don't think we had the pleasure of having Professor Harris as our teacher, though he was one of the senior most teacher there. Later in the fourth year and third, fourth year, and final year, I think we came to know him, and he was in charge of our fourth year class itself. So we were more intimate. Our studio was next to his room also then. His very favorite subject was building material. And the method that he used to prepare before coming for any class is unmatchable. He was very articulate, expressive in his style, and he carried his notes. And from that note, he used to deliver his lecture. So his lecturing style was very unique, and he was very witty in his class also. A subtle sense of humor he had, and that humor never hurt anybody, but it brings out the subtle message. I could vividly remember during one of those classes when he was substituting for one of yet another professor of history of architecture, and he was asking all the students of our class to draw sketches from history of architecture, Bannister Fletcher book. Not everyone had, and I was those one who didn't have that book, and I was waiting for my chance. Then he asked me, and why are you not drawing? I said, I'm waiting, and I will copy from the person who makes a sketch. Then he told that if you don't follow the original and copy from the sketch that somebody else makes, if he had made 10 mistakes, you would make 20 mistakes. So that was style of passing on a subtle message that nothing can match the original. So learn to be very directly learn from the original. And like this, there are several other anecdotes one can definitely refer when you recall Professor Harris as a teacher. So he in fact, his appearance as a class teacher, right from the year 1969 till his last, I think, breath, I remember to have as a person who's immaculately dressed, and he gave so much respect to his teaching profession, and he presented himself the way that he was presenting himself all these years, and the dark blue trousers with a beautiful leather belt and a white shirt, clean, spotless, with his pen with a golden cap clipped to his shirt. That was his unique style, and with his polished shoes. And we could, till the end, I am still getting that image of Professor Harris only that. I think it's more a discipline also, because when you as a teacher that you need to also present yourself, not only as a teacher, in whichever forum you present yourself, that you have to present yourself well. So that's one of the first things that you also learn in addition to his other qualities, that you learn that when you want to appear in front of others, you need to give the due regards and respect as such to the profession or you belong to. So Professor Harris was, as everybody knows, I think he was very fond of his students, and he was always very happy to know their progress in their career, whether it's academics or if a student win any competition. I think he used to take very special mention and pride and bring it to the multipurpose hall or a gathering or assembly to inform about the students' achievement, whether it is NASA or whether it is any other competition that they have done. I think right from School of Architecture till this his career here in this Muhammad Satak, he would have probably continued the same, because he always placed that as a very important thing, giving due recognition to the person at the right time, at the right stage in their personal life, particularly in the academic life. Later, when any of a student win any laurels in any personal professional achievement, he was one of those very rare teachers who was to be very happy and proud about the progress or achievements of his own students. So that is one unique quality which I think everybody would have noticed. We ourselves have experienced that. After completing our postgraduate degree in 1974, MTP in School of Architecture, for a brief spell of 3 years we were out of Chennai, and we were in Pondicherry working under an international architect Roger Ange, on some town planning projects there in Auroville. So, barring that period of 3 years when we were away from Chennai, the rest of the years I have known him, I have been in touch with him throughout. So, when we established our practice in the name and style of Dhala, Kuppuswamy and Rebello in 1979, after we formally came back to Chennai, he was extremely happy and gave his blessings to our firm. Whenever we had some success in our professional career, he was more happier than us and shared this joy with every other, his fellow colleagues and other students. Professor Harris introduced many revolutionary ideas in the field of architectural education. As a teacher and as a dean and director of School of Architecture and Planning in Anna University. And one such thing which I can very clearly remember, I think which has probably become the national movement, is the introduction of a review committee for BR thesis. I think he was probably the pioneer in that. And he was very keen to ensure that the students of architecture, when they leave the portals of their respective institutions, they become very confident, number one, because this review committee gives them an opportunity to face a committee courageously and present themselves before his ideas before her ideas before the committee, and face them and get that kind of an experience, which is equally important. So he always believed that theory and practice go hand in hand, and that's why in his review committee that he ensured that their practicing architects were part of the review committee. And I was one of those who was very lucky to have been inducted by Professor Harris right from the year 1984-85, if I remember right, to have been part of the thesis review committee in School of Architecture and Planning. It was a wonderful experience being part of a review committee of 4 or 5 in his own chambers, that he created a small space for the review committee and for the students to come and present their drawings and sketches along with their respective supervisors. It was a very good idea in terms of making the students gain their experience along with the support from the respective supervisors. It also gave them a bond between the supervisor and the student, because the student had to also take the supervisors into confidence before meeting the review committee members. And in fact, it was not, though it was called as a review committee, at least during his tenure as in School of Architecture, I remember, or the time when I enjoyed, it was more like a committee which not only notes the progress but also gives certain clues to the students also on how to proceed further on the respective thesis, and give them the confidence for the next stage. Because there used to be at least 6 reviews during those days, and it was about once in every 3 weeks, I think the students used to come in turn and then present themselves, and it was one of those wonderful ideas which I think is continuing all over now. And apart from the design crits that we used to have as part of the general class, the final year BArch students at the time of leaving the portals of the respective institutions become a complete architect thanks to this revolutionary idea of the review committee, I think. So I thank him for introduction of this, at the same time also giving me an opportunity to be part of this and then serve. And I continue to serve till the year 2001, till he formally retired. Later, this experience helped me also to become fond of academic in architecture, and I became a full-time professor in School of Architecture and Planning in 2001, the position that he left behind, and continued till 2012. And thereafter, I continued my experience as an academician and as a teacher till 2022. Though he retired from School of Architecture in 2001, he continued to serve the cause of architectural education till his end. Professor Harris served in many capacities in Anna University and many other institutions, shared his very valuable and rich experience as a teacher in framing curriculum and syllabi and regulation for architectural education in several institutions. I think it is a very wonderful contribution that he had made, and he always also insists that there is no retirement to teachers. So I used to wonder why at this age, with all his difficulties, when he had certain orthopedic issues and all that, he was still continuing. He used to mention that there is no retirement for teachers in architecture, or teachers generally. So that is his thing, because when there is a scope for contributing, and when particularly when there is more dearth in this particular education, architectural education, number of institutions with a number of teachers, full-time faculty available for teaching, used to feel that contribution by experienced people would always help an institution to become good, and that was one of his hallmarks. And as we all know that he is an institution builder, and this institution itself is a classic example of that. He used to rope in very young aspiring teachers and groom them well into architectural education system. And as part of the system, he also introduced the idea of roping in or bringing in practicing architects. Even in School of Architecture, it did that. Every design studio had practicing architects becoming part of the team. So similarly, he used to index practicing architects, young practicing architects, not only as design studio, as part of the design studio, also as crits and examiners in various occasions. So it also enabled the younger generation to have someone as an inspiration. So if young architects come to an institution and present their achievements and share their experiences, it served as an inspiration for the budding architect. He was very confident of this measure, and you continue to do that. I was in constant touch with my dear professor, even though he left Anna University in 2001. And till his 2022, I had been in constant touch with him, and he never missed an opportunity to invite me for anything that possibly connected with the field of architectural education. And I was one of those very lucky ones. Even in this institution in the year 2017, he invited me to be part of as a chief guest for the induction program, I think he used to call it here. This is one of the very novel ideas when he called the parents of the students of architecture as part of the induction program to enable the parents also to get to know what is in store for the students of architecture. So it was a great idea, apart from that convocation, other thing which came up much later. So I came here as a chief guest of this institution for this particular program. Thereafter, again, I think twice or thrice I had been very much part of this institution. One particular experience which I remember is, of course, being part of the urban design program, I think in fourth year, and he probably has introduced a system that to create a very healthy competition among students of architecture in their respective class, and instituted a prize for them also. And for one such event, I think he called me, along with my colleague, classmate, Professor Architect B.S. Murthy. We came here, and maybe later on another occasion, I came here for a professional practice special lecture. So I have this experience of being with him, and the best thing that I remember is, of course, the sharing his dais with my esteemed dear professor in 2017. Probably, I do not know. Maybe that was the last time that I shared my experience. I mean, shared dais with him, and I still think it's a very, very proud moment for me. I really think that is one of the very more important things that happened to my life. Though on many occasions earlier also I've had that pleasure, but this 2017 is the one which I remember last. When I had some health issues in the year 2022 and 21 and 22, he was the one who called me. I remember, I think on 29th of April 2022, he called me to inquire about me and also give me his good wishes. So I was very touched and moved because people heard about it. But the minute he heard about it, he called me. And never he missed an opportunity because since 2001, after he left, I think I'd been constantly in touch and sending him greetings for every Eid on special occasions and particularly on Teachers' Day. And he used to respond, take a phone and respond, not just send a message by saying, yes, I received it, thank you. So he was the first one to call and say, I received your message and give his blessings and whenever I saw it. And this particular Teacher's Day, on 5th September 2022 also I continued and I sent my message to him. For the first time that I did not get any reply from him, I was very uneasy about it. So this has never happened in the past. Never I imagined that I would receive a message on 30th September 22 that Professor Harris is no more. It came as a rude shock to me and my family. My biggest regret is that I could not pay my last respect to my most revered, respected guru, philosopher, and well-wisher, and be there in person to offer my condolences to the bereaved family members. Though we have assembled here to condole the death of Professor Muhammad Harris, it's not a journey which comes to an end. A person like Professor Harris with an extraordinary qualification experience in his chosen field, remarkable ability to capture the audience with his captivating addresses, the ability to plan and execute every event immaculate style, and an institution builder, a remarkable quality of respecting every fellow human being. Something very rare quality. He had never received any guest in his room in his sitting position. He always used, irrespective of the age of the person, he used to stand up and receive. Every chief guest used to stand in the portico and receive them and see them off. I mean, these are some qualities which are very, very rare, very difficult to even imitate and follow. We can only say that he was such a person. A philanthropist, very warm and humane person, witty. There was a certain amount of wit and a subtle message used to pass, but you will get it. And a philanthropic attitude, social service activities, be it in religious activities, community activities, neighborhood activities, academic activities, in everything that he chose, he excelled. I mean, there is no end to a life of a person like Professor Harris. And I think he would live in the hearts of all his students, academicians, fellow countrymen, professional architects, and his people from this religious field, community, friends and family forever. Long live Professor Harris and his glory. I would like to end with a quote from Tirukkural. தோன்றிற் புகழொடு தோன்றுக அஃதிலார் தோன்றலிற் தோன்றாமை நன்று. Professor Harris was an example of that. It means that a person must appear in front of an audience with certain stature and otherwise or equip themselves completely. Otherwise, Thiruvallur says, better you don't present yourself. He was one such person. He was fully equipped and prepared and appeared and then lived up to that till his end. Long live his glory. வாழ்க ஹாரிஸ் புகழ், ஓங்குக அவர் புகழ். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.